NFT, raw and unfiltered.
Yeah,
All right,
man,
I'll
I'm
just
easy.
I'll
I
chuck the
don't really
recorder
care.
on then, boys, and we'll
I'm
start.
already drinking beers, mate. So fuck. I actually know New South Wales. You guys are fucking having a heat wave, man. You guys are fucking must be scorching.
Oh, I think it's Western Australia that's getting smashed like 2 days in above 40 or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah,
We
no,
got
that's
we got one
mate,
coming up now.
give me COVID any day.
Yeah. Exactly, mate. Exactly.
Spare me the heat. Don't worry about it. How's
That's it.
Singapore? What's the weather like in Singapore?
Oh, mate, today was unbelievable. Like 32. It's like 32 degrees all year. And
Yeah.
it's humid and hot and fucking terrible.
Oh man, you must be living the dream in Singapore.
Yeah, it's actually pretty sweet. It's not too because I used to
Yeah.
live in London, man, and there it's like fucking rains all year and it's cold all year.
Okay.
So yeah, man.
So you're working?
Yeah, I work like part-time in finance. I just finished my master's in
Oh,
management here.
nice.
So yeah, we're trying to do this NFT thing, try and get this thing off the ground, and then after that, if you know,
Yep.
do our best with that. But if not, I'm in finance as my background, so try and do
How's the
that.
NFT space in Singapore? Is there
It's popping off,
subculture going
dude.
on?
Yeah, it's popping off for sure. I mean, I was telling Alex the other day, like Southeast Asia is blowing up for NFTs. Actually, the biggest
Right.
country of holders is the Philippines, which was just blew my
Hey,
mind.
but do you want to blow your mind off that shit? The biggest holder of NFT.
Considering how expensive it is,
That's
Yeah,
what
and
we were
like-
saying. Like,
Yeah,
it just doesn't.
man.
The purchasing power in the Philippines, and after that was Thailand, bro. Like it's just like fucking mental,
dude.
absolutely mental.
they
So
must
I
have
don't
been
know
like
why they're
early
buying it.
adopters of ETH, man.
yeah, early adopters, and they can make a quick. If they're smart with it, they can make some decent money. If they scrape together the pennies to buy one NFT, they get lucky, and
They flip it.
that's the dream. So I guess it's
Yeah.
another. I don't know how many of them are kind of led down that path and just think they're going to make their millions and end up losing their money. I don't know, but it's interesting.
Yeah, man.
It's interesting to know the statistics.
Yeah, for any success story, there's probably 10 failures, eh? It's
Absolutely,
really,
mate. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Everyone's just on the everyone's on the grind now just to flip NFTs. That's sort of like what in a sense what the market sort of feels like. There are genuine people looking for real projects. Going back to just before we started recording, we were talking about projects that influences, things that are shilled right up until the mint date, and you never get a follow-up on that. Like
Yeah.
you sort of have someone that tells you about a project. They shill it for weeks and weeks, and then afterwards it's like the mint happens, no one ever follows up. And this is a prime example. Mecca.
Yes.
So do you remember Mecca when that was popping off like that?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Big project, man. Like that was like everyone was crazy. Everyone's was going mental for it. That thing hit like a 7/8 floor, 8/8 floor. It's done 42K in ETH volume, like trading volume.
It's massive.
And it was just absolutely mind-blowing, right?
I think they were Aussie too, those boys.
Were they Aussie as
Really?
well?
Yeah.
No way. No, I think they're French. No.
Were
I
they?
think they're
Oh,
French.
okay.
Yeah. I think they've set up an office in Paris now.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. But the Mecca project, when it came out, launched, everyone went nuts for it. And then right afterwards, they're saying there's like a lot of FUD around it. Like there was like, oh, the Meccas look shit, everything looks crap, we don't like it. No one buy
really?
it, blah, blah, blah. And then it just crashed and nosedived and everything like that. And the funny thing is, no one's talked about that project since it launched back in October. And that was the biggest thing in NFT space for like that whole year.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all these 3D derivative projects inspired from Mecca started coming out afterwards. But the funny thing is, if anyone, like anyone that was shilling that project was talking about it, did their due diligence and goes back to that project, that project, man, like these guys are creating such a community, but the stuff that they've got in works for the pipeline ahead of this project is like, it's mind blowing. Like the airdrops and what they're creating for it is like, oh wow, these guys are actually creating a branding behind the mechas and everything about it. Like they're doing drivers now with their mechas. Like they're actually you're gonna get like a 3D driver, NFT airdrop, and they're doing these little robot companion airdrops with the actual mechas. Yeah. And you can see how this is all going to intertwine with their metaverse and how it's all going to, create and foster an ecosystem within that mechaverse. And the thing is, now these guys have the money. They've got the funding. They've got, they've turned over 42K in trading volume with what? Maybe they're getting 5-10% of that. So on top of what they made in the mints and the trading volume, they've got such a big budget to make an amazing project. And the thing is, no one's supporting it. Who the fuck's talking about it now? Why is the NFT crowd gone absolutely dead and moved on to the next project? And this is the one gripe that I would have in the NFT space, is like every time a project mints launch, everyone's off to the next thing, and it just like, don't worry about the other project. And
how many people within that project do you think were purely there to flip?
I would say probably, and this is what Tom and I have talked about, hype. So any project that gets hype, I would say 90% of it is flippers. Actually, 95%. I would agree. Probably rarely, I would say probably say most people are there to flip it because it's the hype that drives it. So when you see a project in a span of 2 days, there's been no organic community growth.
As actually everyone, developers, that's not what you want, right? You don't want a community made out of flippers because there's no attachment to it. They won't stay.
No, they won't stay. They won't engage with the DAO concept afterwards. Funny, everyone talks about staking in these games and like staking NFT. The funniest thing is when that GameFi crypto thing came out and, the sheep and wolves and all that, everyone was like, oh, this is amazing. The only thing it was staking, and that's exactly what it was. And the funny thing is they just changed the narrative, put a cool story on top of it. But the game function of in that NFT is literally just staking your NFT and then getting the rewards back from it. It's like it's really just DeFi, and you've added a narrative to it. So it's funny because everyone was like, this is mind blowing. It's changing the world. And it's like, I mean, this is like, we were talking about this, guys, 4 months, 5 months ago, and it's been around for ages. But so like, that's what we don't want. We don't want to create a community that goes from 0 to 100 in 3 days. Because you don't get community. Like the thing is, you just get flippers. And I think those days are over anyway. Those days where you can kind of sell. I mean, look, sure, if you get the right influencers and right people on board, you can probably still sell out at mint. But like I said previously, like the NFT community investors and people involved are a bit more savvy now. They know what to look for. They know how to read a roadmap now and expect certain types of utility or what they want out of an NFT. It's not just about a fancy looking art anymore. And even then, like when it first came out, no one knew what the hell an NFT was. People were just like right click, save as, Like, And that's still the piss take that's going on right now. Right click, save as. And it's like, mate, there's so much more to it. But it's look, I agree. Actually, some projects still slip through. Alien Friends at the moment is a derivative type project. I'll just call that out. Like that's what I think it is. It's at the moment, it's like we're going to have IRL events and we're going to do merchandise and then we'll do a comic. If they do a comic, that's really cool. But apart from that, it's just it was an influencer pump. I think some of the Milk Boys got into it. Some famous, I think Logan Paul might have pumped it a bit. Some YouTubers pumped it, and then that's it. It just took off.
The funny thing is that will always work, though, right? It will always work.
Yeah,
it's like that's not going away. You get the right influencer with the right amount of people, put out a tweet or pump it, it will still work.
Yeah,
like it'll still pump the price. So as much as we complain and think how stupid it is, like, and I don't mean to call anyone stupid, but like there's people out there that will just kind of fall for that kind of mentality, that FOMO mentality. So, you know, if it ain't broke.
Yeah, I mean, it works. Like I'm not going to knock anyone that buys into it, because the method works. You are making some seriously good coin from it. You really are, and you play the market right, and that's what you're here for. But like, you know, there are people in the NFT space that actually want to see a project do some amazing things. They want to see some branding behind the project. They want to see some longevity behind it. They want to see some.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah,
I've always been curious about how people come up with their NFT pricing, right?
Yep.
On average, it's 150 USD. That seems to be the ballpark. You know, it's a piece of art, right?
Yep.
How do you price it? Like, what, you guys are in the middle of developing one. Like, what's the rationale? And I don't know if you want to say, or if you can talk about it.
No, definitely. The rationale for us is the funding of what's got to go on behind it. So we're actually wanting to create something. So for us to create, what we want to do with our project is, one, we want to get the professional comic book creative storyteller. So that's going to be a cost. We worked it out on average, like to get a chapter of a comic book out, it's about, you know, $7,500 to $10,000 USD.
Wow.
And that's a 24-page comic. Now that's from start to finish. That's getting someone professionally. That's not, we're not talking, just someone that you're going to get off Fiverr and just get them to just illustrate it. This is professional. This is doing all the chapters. And then you've got to work out a contract. There are some companies in Singapore that actually do this, art studios that we've looked in. One, we've got to get that budgeting in. Two, we've got to hire in developers. So we're going to get someone in that's more permanent and full-time. Then you've got to hire in, illustrators and art illustrators. So we want to have people that work closely with us. At the moment, Tom got a recommendation, our artist that's doing the artwork on it now. Whilst he's great, he was recommended to us, but he's in the Philippines, right? And he fits our style perfectly. But I want to be in a room with someone. If I'm going to be creating a project, I'm going to be hands-on. I need to be in the room with that person. I need them to see my vision. I need them to see the community's vision that we're trying to put this together. And I need to be able to explain it to them and have them iterate it straight away. I can't be sending something off and waiting, for them to come back and respond to me. I'd rather just have it instantaneously. So we've got to factor in that. We've got to factor in an office. So we've got to get an office space in Singapore as well.
Right.
Living expenses. So, giving up your job, that's something that we've got to do. When it comes to taking a wage, I would take, minimum wage, because most of the money is going to be getting poured back into the project itself. So it's one, I've got to, do the living expenses. Tom's got to get living expenses as well. He's got to give up his job. And we've got to go full time on this. And then we've got to work out ways of creating, a revenue stream from this brand and this actual company itself. Because when just because you've launched an NFT and you've got X amount of dollars, we could be earning money from royalties, which we hope not to, because actually that means people are holding on to the NFT and want to be a part of the project. But also we've only got 4,000 NFTs that we're releasing. But, we've got to make money from revenues, but then also we've got to create content to give back to the people that have invested in us to begin with. And people expect, like, well, we've invested in you as, founding members and people that are creating a project and a brand. What are we going to get as a reward for owning one of these NFTs?
That's when people are the harshest. After mint, that's when they're the harshest. Like, all right, I've thrown my money to you. You've got my money now. I've got my little picture. Now let's get the ball rolling with the roadmap. That's when people expect a lot in a very short amount of time.
And that's the key issue in a short amount of time. And this is what I think people are starting to lose track of, because NFT space moves so quickly. I mean, there's another project going simultaneously at the same time whilst once your project's minted out, there's another project going and it's getting the most amount of hype.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, wait a second, your project was the biggest hyped project, last week, but now this project's the biggest hyped project this week. What are you going to do to become bigger than that project now? And it's just like, mate, like these guys have just worked their ass off. And I think what people don't realize is the amount of work that goes into.
No, they don't. And especially when you said how much the comic costs, like, mate, that blew my mind. I didn't know.
Yeah. And like, if you want it done professionally, and I promise you, I could probably get that done. And this is no word of a lie. If I wanted to do a chapter, I could get it done for $1,000. It's going to be shit. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
And it's not. Who's going to believe in the product and the brand behind it after you release a shit product? Like, you want detail, you want the story to be there. And we need to actually manage the community as well, and the DAO, to be able to give that value back to them. And then that also comes with hiring moderators to come moderate the Discord. And also we've got to get marketers as well, because we want to continue to grow the brand. Like, we've got 4,000 NFTs that we're releasing, and we've got 5 characters, and there's only 800 NFTs of each character. So there's a short supply. So it's like having a micro cap in a already what's deemed as pretty small cap to begin with. So each one of these characters, if you have a favorite character, there's only going to be 800 of that one character. And, we've got so many traits that there's going to be so many variations to that character. It's, there's going to be something for everyone in the actual project itself.
What's funny, when you said, you can do a comic and release it for 1,000, like $1,000, and it'll be a shit product. The kind of double-edged sword in the NFT space is, you could. And the funny thing is, if 80% of projects are not doxed, and you can release a shit project rather than go, the next project is probably the same guy that just minted, and he's working on multiple projects at the same time. That's like, there's so many things to consider, negatives even, dare I say negative about the content that I'm making on YouTube, but there's so many negatives that people need to just watch out for, because this doc situation, the fact that you can just have a pseudo avatar on the screen and be like, oh, I'm working on this massive project, and raking in hundreds of thousands of dollars and not know who the fuck it is. Like, that's not cool.
And people are investing. Like, I honestly believe 2022 is the year of, no longer you can't be a doxed, an anonymous project anymore. I just don't think you can. I think there's so much thing around it. One of the early projects I called out massively for being an anonymous team was Kaiju Kings. And I still, what's happening there, boys? Like, why is this thing like pumping? What's going on there? And they're all anonymous teams. What's going on?
I think they have like staking, don't they? Those kaiju.
They do. It's very similar to cyberkongs, but at the end of the day, you can stake whatever. What is it? It's like cyberkongs. You get the Genesis Kongs, you make the baby Kongs, and the thing is, after the baby Kongs, and you can no longer breed the baby Kongs, where's the utility after that? Then I mean, it's like